everyone. Welcome to this very, very special bonus edition of live stream with me, Dr. Aparajita Jitagunta. I am so excited for our guest expert today. And as people are joining in, whether you're watching this live or watching this later, thank you so much. The one thing I can promise you before I introduce our guest expert today is that you are going to get so much insight from today's session because I have only been working with our guest expert for a very short time, and already my strategy changed, my communications changed, and I have such a better understanding of how to maximize my ROI on my speaking engagements. So without further ado, what I want to do right now is welcome Wanda Toro-Turini to this live stream. And the reason Wanda's here today is to teach us about how to boost the ROI of every video opportunity. Especially in today's world, video summits and guest speaking spots are a hot commodity. We all know that, especially if we're in the space. That's how we run our business. But after I met Wanda, I realized that as I said, I'd been leaving money on the table every time I spoke. I mean, in a week, I addressed almost like 5 gaps that I can now take care of. Wanda helped me realize that there are so many anonymous fans out there in my audience, and I've been missing out on the opportunity to truly and authentically connect with them and engage with them every time I speak, because after all, that's why I'm speaking, is to create authentic engagement, and that's what I was missing. And that's where our expert today, Wanda Toro-Turini, comes in. So a little bit about her. Wanda Toro-Turini, also known as Dr. Wanda, or I love this, the nerdy girl entrepreneur, which is why I love it. That's what she's called. Wanda is a seasoned entrepreneur, but even more unique, she is a natural inventor. She has spent the last 15 years creating first-in-market solutions for multi-billion-dollar companies, but has decided to use her brains to change the lives and businesses of fellow entrepreneurs like us. She is a unique combo of super analytical and super creative, and is a rock star in marketing and audience engagement. Knowing that you are all dedicated to sharing your knowledge with the world, I had to book Wanda to teach us on how we can dominate every physical and digital stage and generate massive return from every one of those opportunities. And especially, again, to create that authentic engagement. So thank you so much for joining us, Wanda. Welcome to my live stream.
Thank you. Let's party.
I know. So let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, and ready. Let's rock on into the presentation, and I'll chat a little bit more. That was, thank you, a very thorough introduction. But yep, we're going to focus on boosting the ROI of every single one of your video opportunities. My goal is to ensure that you never again leave an interested prospect behind. We talked about anonymous fans, or AJ did, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Now, how do I, oops, I realize I just need to flip on over here. There you go. Is that working? Okay. So, I am Wanda Toro-Turini. I am also a doctor in pharmacy. I practiced as a healthcare professional long ago, but what's important there is that's the foundation of me being the nerdy girl. And then later on, I became an entrepreneur. 15 years ago in 2005, I started my company with the desire to actually incubate innovative ideas and develop them into sustainable businesses, okay? I worked in the healthcare industry for pharmaceutical companies, and I evolved into the marketing arena, and I had just so many ideas on how to solve many of the problems that were facing us in healthcare and in marketing, that I knew I just had to develop an agency focused on those ideas. Now, yes, I am nerdy, but I am also just an inventor at heart. And just recently, a very good friend of mine and one of my mentors and coaches gave me this hat, this visionary hat, and it really connected with me. And I share it in the sense that she was able to label something that I had struggled with for a long time. I kind of felt like I was plagued with always problem solving and trying to make things better. Even when I didn't want to, but my brain just automatically would go and try and like solve the problem. And so I learned to kind of embrace the fact that this is a unique skill that I have. I really, really enjoy looking at problems within our industry, within our lives, and solving them. And so that's just kind of the undercurrent of who I am and why my brain is always going. And as a result, when I started my business 15 years ago, remember, my goal was to incubate innovative solutions and ideas, right? So there were there have been a lot of products and services that I've had the wonderful opportunity to launch. Some of them didn't work out so well, of course, and some of them did. And one of the divisions of my company was a consulting firm that did focus on some pharmaceutical consulting. Okay. The point there is that in that space, in that world, I was responsible for generating leads, right? And those leads primarily came from conferences. Now, we primarily spent most of our time exhibiting at these conferences. We're a small business. We're competing with large companies like KPMG, Deloitte and Touche, PricewaterhouseCoopers, really, really big guys. But what I realized was, as I was watching these big guys on stage, I knew that I knew, and my team knew way more than those folks. But it was very frustrating, and it was interesting because they were perceived to be experts because they were speakers. Okay. They were perceived to be experts because they were speakers. And so I realized that I had to overcome any issues that I had about being in front of people or being on stage or sharing my expertise, because speaking gave that perception of expertise. And if I were to prove myself as an expert to those audience members, I had a responsibility to share my expertise as much as possible. And I know many of us may have challenges with that, right? There are a lot of different feelings that I've experienced and my clients have experienced around sharing their expertise. You know, some of us may feel like, oh, well, that's kind of gratuitous, you know, that you like going out there and just like being on stage, right? And in other cases, it may just be like, well, I really, really love serving an audience. Like I love sharing my expertise, but I just really don't know if there's a return. I kind of feel like it's charitable. It's kind of a thing like, if I can do it, sure, I'll be a guest. Or if I can do it, then maybe I'll do a video or whatever, right? It kind of seems just like it's in the fringe and not core, right? So I'm here to kind of tell you now and hopefully reinforce throughout this entire presentation that your expertise, you are your greatest asset. And it's absolutely essential for you to share that within this speaking world, right? So now it's interesting when I mention speaking, because a lot of my fellow entrepreneurs just don't consider themselves speakers, right? Many of us think, oh, well, we're a speaker if we actually get paid to speak. Otherwise, I'm not a speaker. Well, guess what? If you share your expertise, you are speaking, right? And so when I'm referring to these opportunities, I'm referring to all of the opportunities where you can share. And in a non-digital world, we know it's, you know, physical conferences and summits, networking, right? Where you may have the opportunity to introduce yourself one-on-one with somebody or introduce yourself to the entire group. You may even have the opportunity for a guest speaking spot in a networking group. Non-digital environment, we have lunch and learn events and educational sessions. You may have media interviews like TV or radio, right? So now bringing it on to the digital world, every one of those has its digital components. And now we're kind of experiencing them even more. And what's really interesting, I think it's exciting. It's an exciting opportunity for us, even though it's a horrible health dilemma and health situation that we're in right now. But from a business perspective, it's really allowed us to understand how to optimize our digital environment, right? And to learn how to master that. And the fact that the time that you spend now to master and optimize your digital environment is critical, because when everything lets up, guess what? Now you're going to have both sides of the pie. You're going to have digital mastery and non-digital mastery, right? So I want you to kind of make sure that you don't think of this as just a COVID specific strategy, right? You are going to reap major benefit from really optimizing your video presence, and in addition to broadening your capacity to serve more people, right? To be able to allow people globally to understand what you can provide to them and how you can help them, right? So obviously on the digital side, I'm sorry, I was on my soapbox there, but on the digital side, we have our virtual conferences and summits. When we think of networking, it's interesting. There are tons of virtual groups, Facebook groups out there, right? Not all of them actually label themselves as networking or position themselves at networking, right? Because in a networking event, the event itself is actually positioned to support people introducing themselves to each other, right? So there are some groups out there where they actually virtually invite people into a Zoom meeting or some sort of virtual environment where you know that the objective is just to introduce yourself and get to know what other people are offering so you can be a referral or possibly a client, and vice versa, right? But you could do that by introduction or even by doing Facebook Lives in some of these groups where you do introduce yourself and how you serve people, okay? Social media videos, obviously videos that you're doing on your own pages, and webinars that you may be putting up on YouTube or offering to other folks, and podcast interviews, right? In the digital environment, media interviews, it's really converted into podcast interviews. Podcasts can be just voice or video. We're finding more and more that that they are being recorded as video and being shared in that way, right? So this is really, really important for you to be aware, because when I talk about video, I'm talking about all of these opportunities. Okay. Now, today's objective is to really talk about how video can help you actually attract with precision. Some folks think video as kind of a really broad and generic sort of way of touching people. And of course it can, but with good strategy, you can actually be using it to target audiences very strategically and with precision, right? This makes the difference in how you perceive video opportunities. They should not be along the fringe or something that if I have time, I can do it. I will show you that it should be one of the first things that you put. It should be a priority in your marketing plan, right? We're also going to talk a little bit about why not only you, why I and probably 85 to 90% of folks are losing leads that are right in front of them when they're in this speaking space, whether it was physical or in the digital, on digital stages, right? And then I'll talk to you about how I discovered how to connect to those anonymous fans and never again leave those interested prospects behind. Okay. This has literally been my mission, for my solo mission for the past 2 years. But I've been working on this for a while. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Okay, so let's talk about attracting with precision. When we look at our marketing tactics, there are so many things out there and so many tactics available to us to let people know that we're here. See me, please, right? It's search engine optimization and blogging and content sharing. Content marketing in and of itself is an expertise, right? And it takes strategy and time to put that together. Social media posts, you want to make sure you do that with consistency and with strategy. What's the word I keep on referring to here, right? Any of these tactics, video education, video entertainment, like TikTok videos, right? Guest appearances, conferencing, exhibiting or speaking, advertising, right? Is a very interesting awareness tactic, because we kind of feel like it's one of the first things that we should do, but I don't want to say it's not a good ROI, but in order to really move the needle a lot, you have to invest in a lot of money. I had invested in some really high level advisors to help me figure out what my advertising approach is going to be for Catch, as this is our inaugural year. And they basically said, look, if you expect $1 million product or $1 million of services sold as a result of your advertising, expect to spend 250K, right? That's a 4-to-1 ROI. Seems pretty good, but there are a lot of other things that don't cost as much money out of pocket that can give you that ROI or even better, right? Cold calling, influencer marketing, and partnership, word of mouth. Okay, all of these are awareness tactics. So when I'm evaluating these for my business, I kind of also take stock of what is my available time and what is my available money, right? And so when I'm evaluating them, I am looking at this one underlying factor that is pretty critical in measuring whether I put that tactic up on top. And that is the main reason that people buy. The main factor that causes people to buy quickly is the know, like, and trust factor. Okay. Now that's not a big like, voila, I made it up. No. Okay. We've all kind of heard of it, but I want to kind of position it a little bit more and reinforce it because we can be aware of a lot of information, right? What I'm encouraging you to do is really absorb this and apply this to your business and spend the time applying because it will make a difference. Okay. So when I talk about know, it's not only about people knowing or being aware of who you are. I actually like to add awareness of a couple of other things, right? In order to move the needle, I think people need to, I believe, and I think it's been proven through marketing, but the people need to be aware that they have a problem or the problem exists, that they're experiencing that problem, that a solution exists, and then aware that you exist, right? If you just focus on helping people realize, hey, I'm here, and you don't help them understand the problem it is that you intend to solve, right? Then they may not be aware that you can help them. I hope that makes sense, right? So I'm going to repeat that again. If you only focus in your strategy on making sure that people know you exist, the language that you're going to use is going to be a little bit different. If you realize that you should be focusing on not only helping people know that you exist, but helping people recognize that there's a problem and there's a solution to that problem and that they may actually have that problem, right? Then the fact that you're talking about it is awareness in and of itself, right? So the KLT factor, as you're thinking about it, it actually drives the content and how you approach every one of these engagements. Like is related to, I like to say, alignment, right? Am I aligned with kind of how you do things, how you speak, how you communicate? It's something that I would say all that you can do is just present yourself authentically. Don't change who you are based on what you think people will like, right? Sit in your authentic zone. There's really, from my perspective, nothing tactically you should do except just be yourself and be comfortable in yourself. People like you, even love you in your personal life, right? That's just because you're you. And the more that you share who you are out there, then you're going to attract those people that authentically align and like what you do. Okay. So don't work so hard on that. The know you can work hard on, and the trust, right? The trust is about confidence that you know what you're talking about, and confidence that you're actually going to execute and deliver upon the results that you have talked about, right? So the KLT factor, any tactic that I like to focus on needs to give me like a 5-star on the KLT factor meter. All right. And these are the things that I'm going to talk to you today because they can all be executed through video, right? In boosting your KLT, I suggest that at this time in our lives that you really focus on your video strategy, and that is your digital stages, your video networking that we've talked about, educational videos and webinars, and your podcast and TV interviews, right? That you actually write these down and you look at what you are doing to make sure that you are present in all of these. Because if you are present in all of these, you are going to escalate your KLT factor like through the roof, right? People need to be aware that there's a problem, be aware that there's a solution, be aware that you're the solution, be aware that you exist. And by tinkering behind computers and working on executing our projects and such, I mean, I'm speaking to myself too, right? I'm preaching to myself. I've hidden myself for a very long time, working out the perfect, details of my programs. But as a result, it's a complete disservice to me and my responsibility in building my company for myself and my employees and for my family, right? And to the people I serve, a complete disservice to those people, right? So I can speak about this forever and ever. I actually put together this incredible 3-part video series called The Trio. It's about laser focusing your lead generation game, and it really dives in deep in this. We talk about some of the metrics, the customer lifetime value, why it's important to understand customer lifetime value, because it puts a monetary view on what a lead and what a client means to you. And it puts a different perspective on whether you would be interested in even investing in this, right? Just to give you perspective, when I finally decided to speak at these conferences, I realized that they were paid gigs, not I was being paid. I had to pay for the opportunity. I paid $10,000 in that industry. I had to pay $10,000 for the opportunity to speak on stage for half hour, 45 minutes in front of 300 people. $10,000. And I knew that I needed to make that experience worth it, right? I wasn't KPMG or PricewaterhouseCoopers where I could throw up one of my team members and they just blah, 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 blah. And they didn't really have a strategy in lead generation or ensuring that it had a good ROI. They were just like, oh, it's awareness, right? I couldn't afford that at 10,000, right? So this is kind of the genesis of how I've developed this strategy. I needed to create this strategy for survival, for me to be able to compete with these big guys, and it worked. I was able to grow my consulting business to $4.2 million in revenue. And it was a huge opportunity. I'm going to talk more about the impact of that on my life, right? But I just want to kind of express just some of the information that's in this laser focused trio. So if you want to access it, I highly recommend right now you take your cell phone and you text trio-AJ to 411321. So 411321 will be the phone number. It's considered a short code. The message is trio-AJ. It doesn't have to be in caps, but put it in caps. It looks nice in caps, right? Trio-AJ. If you haven't used this EcoFile service before, then it will ask you for your email address and then it will deliver. If you have, then it won't ask you for your email because it knows who you are already, and it's going to deliver a text, an email, and an attachment. You're also going to get access to the 3 videos plus the attached workbook. Okay. This is some deep stuff. I only make it available actually to these talks that I do with my partners as guest expert, right? So if you are at all interested in resonating with this, text trio-AJ to 411321. I'm going to leave that on the bottom of a couple slides so you have the opportunity. Okay. So let's keep moving. Some of the keys to attracting with precision in video, it was for me was really spending time documenting the characteristics of an ideal prospect versus of an ideal client. Okay. I spend a lot of time with this with my clients. AJ experienced this, and actually this is probably one of the most transformational experiences that our clients have in our Catalyst sessions, because I'm going to ask you some hard questions, but it will literally just clear up why it is you're speaking and who it is that you should be speaking to when you are deciding your topics, etc. Right? Your ideal prospect, to clarify, is the person that is in pain. They're actively in pain, right? They're struggling with the challenge that you can serve. It's like when you look at somebody or you meet somebody, you're like, oh, girl, I can help you, but they are nowhere close to receiving the help, right? They can't receive the help. They're not there yet, right? And there are many issues that they have or barriers that they have to overcome in order to be there yet. Versus the ideal client, when we spend time describing our ideal client, that's describing the person that's ready to say yes, right? The person that understands the issues, they're experiencing the pain, but they also have certain beliefs and certain knowledge that make them primed and matured enough in your journey to say yes. Okay. There's a distinct difference. And by actually documenting the characteristics of the ideal prospect and the ideal client, and then understanding the differences between the two, as I had mentioned, they could be beliefs that they need to overcome or knowledge that they need to be acquired. That becomes your prospect journey. Spending the time on that is golden because it will trickle through not only your video presentations, it will trickle through all of your marketing engagement. And I'm sure that AJ can attest to that, right? So understanding that prospect journey, believe me, it's worth spending the time. And we spend a lot of that time in our catalyst sessions when I do one-on-one sessions. And then, of course, take that information and be strategic with it. Now you know. I can't tell you how many times, especially earlier on in my career, where I would spend time doing all of this analysis and then I would forget to execute it. It sounds silly, but it's there in a beautiful PowerPoint presentation. I do everything in PowerPoint because I came from corporate and everything had to be in PowerPoint, right? But I would create this fantastic PowerPoint. I went through all this thought process and then I just put it off to the side and I didn't strategically apply it to every single thing that I do, right? So once you do this, it's going to affect the topics that you offer, right? The events that you accept, right? Instead of just accepting any teaching opportunity, you're going to look at and say, okay, does it address an interested prospect, an ideal prospect or an ideal client? Who do I want to speak to? Is it in that space, right? If you're selecting a video topic, right, to bring it back to video, although it's all interrelated, if you select a video topic and you say, you know what, I want to serve my ideal prospects here. And what that means is I'm going to select a topic that's kind of lower in the journey, right? Maybe a level 1 or 2 topic where a lot of people are like, yeah, I resonate with that. I could really use some help with that. The ideal client may be like, I think I kind of have that figured out, but guaranteed, if they're your ideal client, they're still going to be like, that's an interesting topic. I think I want to learn because I want to kind of reinforce that, right? So if you focus on topics that serve your ideal prospect in this lower level of the journey, then it's going to serve a broader audience and it leads you to more lead generation opportunities, right? And more opportunity to improve the KLT, that know, like, and trust factor with a greater audience base. Now, on the flip side, you can choose to put together a topic that's very, very, very specific, that's intended for that high level ideal client, right? The person that is just on the precipice, right? And just needs to be aware that you're there to serve them. They need to like you and trust you, and voila, you have a yes, right? That's going to be a different topic base. You're going to have a different approach. More specific, you'll get less leads, but they're the ones that are closer to saying yes, right? So I want to give you an example of, a presentation where you may have the opportunity to sell at the end of the presentation or present an offer at the end of the presentation, right? If we do kind of the traditional perfect webinar kind of route, right? The entire presentation is totally focused on setting up the offer at the end, right? Now, fantastic. The personal problem that I have with that approach is that you're only serving the ideal clients, or you're only connecting with the ideal clients at the end. The people that said yes, you're like, woohoo. For the other people that were like intrigued, there's nothing else to offer them, right? For example, in this presentation, I am utilizing that strategy, right? I worked really, really hard to put this fantastic resource together to laser focus your lead generation game, this trio video, right? The trio series of videos and the workbook. That took a lot of time, and I only offer it in exclusive situations, right? But at this point, I know that no matter what, if you choose to work with us or not, that I can still serve you, right? And I can still give you the opportunity to access this really exclusive content and hopefully bring you further along on the journey, or or support you better, right? Hopefully that will increase my KLT factor, right? So I actually like to combine the two, and I'm hoping, my goal is for that to become gold standard, because I really feel that there's extreme value in focusing on serving the audience. Okay, it'll come back around. So very quickly, why I tended to lose leads that were right in front of me is for so long, I realized, and I kind of touched upon this, for so long, I kind of realized my perception of speaking was either feeling like I can't speak. Like, does that mean I feel I'm hoity toity? Like, what do I think of myself that I feel like I should go out there and be speaking, right? Or if I spoke, I kind of viewed it as like, as I said, like, if I have time, I'll do it. It's kind of like charitable, like, hopefully I'll connect with some people, but it was very loosey goosey. So I never wound up actually seeing a clear return because I didn't put that effort to ensuring that it had a clear return, right? Now remember, and I hope that you get this from how I've been speaking, I'm not talking about making it all about you. I'm saying actually realizing and putting effort to make sure that you're serving both your audience and you're serving your business, because you can't help people if you don't stay in business. If your pockets are empty, you cannot help people if you can't stay in business. So it is okay to actually think about money and your return on investment when you're doing any of these activities. And I hope that someday, if you do feel a little icky about it, because I've felt icky about it in the past, I hope that that can be reframed in your head, because people need you, right? And your expertise, you are your greatest asset. All right. So that was very, very important. That's one of the major things, right? We forget why we're actually sharing the knowledge. We have all these kind of negative connotations with speaking or doing our video, right? Instead of just focusing on the fact that, you know what, it doesn't matter how exactly I look and if everything's not perfect. It's the fact that I just want to serve people, and hopefully I could serve people effectively, right? Next is that we tend to avoid defining success. We avoid actually taking the 10 to 15 minutes to think, well, what is a good ROI for that Facebook post, right? Am I looking at engagements? Am I looking at views? Am I looking at how many comments? Am I looking at how many people text, my catchword? All of these things, I want you to think about those things in advance, because how you speak during that engagement is going to be driven by that strategy. If you don't have the strategy, it's just going to be this all over the place sort of situation, right? And then next is that I know I had failed to provide an effective call to action, right? Our traditional calls to action are like these guys, in the top right, where we say, hey, follow me on LinkedIn or follow me on Facebook, or here's my email or here's my phone number or whatever. And it's like, right? It doesn't happen. If it happens, I'll tell you, you're friggin' lucky. If it happens that somebody actually reaches out, then you're lucky. You know why? Because there's an actual psychological law called the law of diminishing intent. But I'm going to talk about that in a second. So I call this the dilemma of the anonymous fan, right? Because I know, and I'm sure many of you have been in the situation where you're speaking, especially in a live audience, right? And you see people writing notes, you see the glimmer in the eye, they're like nodding, they're all in. People may even come up afterwards being like, that was excellent or whatever, but they're anonymous to you. One of my colleagues had said to me, I can't tell you how this resonates because I feel like a one-night stand when I speak. I feel like I get everybody revved up. It's like smooth operator. And then no second dates. Crushing, right? So my goal when I was spending the $10,000 was to unveil those anonymous fans. I could not afford to lose them. If I saw sparkle in their eye, I needed to serve them and give them something to do immediately so that they could connect with me, right? What I was talking about is this law of diminishing intent with traditional calls to action, right? When we ask people to email or even come up afterwards or meet me at my booth, right? The law of diminishing intent means that the longer you wait to do something, the less of a chance you're going to do it. And it happens to all of us. We heard that great presentation. We intend to connect, even if it's on video. Wow, that was good. Yeah, I'm going to like that page. Boop, something happens and it doesn't doesn't happen, right? So while you have them engaged, it's critical for you to actually give them something to do. So all of these things, right? The nerdy girl just sat with that. This was a little less than 10 years ago, right? And I sat with that dilemma and said, whew, I'm going to spend that $10,000. I better figure out a good way of dealing with this. And I looked back at one of my other inventions, a platform called EcoFiles. So this platform that I developed, I conceptualized it back in 2007. And in 2009, we actually built it, right? In 2007, I was in a large medical conference, like 50,000 attendees, and we were exhibiting. And at the end of the conference, as the janitorial staff was cleaning up and such, they were collecting a pile of brochures and papers and white papers that were not used in the middle of McCormick Place in Chicago, which is a huge exhibit center. Okay. So this pile became a human climbable mountain of paper brochures and reprints and blah, blah, all that stuff, all wasted. And that very moment, I thought, wait a second, this is a problem, right? This is a problem. One, tons of money wasted. When I worked for the pharmaceutical industry, we spent millions of dollars, but even for us, spending thousands of dollars on printed pieces just to know that it could wind up in the garbage like that, right? And it doesn't serve the audience, the attendees that were there. They would walk around with these huge bags, and then ultimately most of them wound up in the garbage anyway, right? So I knew this was a problem. And so my objective that day in 2007 was to develop an eco-friendly way to share educational content, to share these robust pieces of information. And I developed a platform. It took me 2 years to look at all different types of technology, and we landed on texting because texting was ubiquitous. It didn't matter what kind of phone you had, whether it was a smartphone or a clamshell phone that they called back then, right? Back then, only 25% of people had smartphones, right? But the principles still apply, right? An application, you have to download it, you have to learn how to use it, etc. Texting is native to your phone. It's available on a global level, right? So I architected a solution. I engaged a software development team to develop EcoFiles, which was intended to deliver eco-friendly materials by texting a simple keyword and having it delivered to your email. So now, 2011, I'm working on my consulting, and I am focused on putting down that $10,000 check to pay to speak. And I realize I could use EcoFiles. Now, the quick little wrap up of the story of EcoFiles was I was way too early in the game with EcoFiles. When I presented it to corporations, which was my focus, most of my clients are actually corporate clients or have been in the past. They literally told me, adults don't text, only children text. And I tried and I just became very frustrated, and I put it on the shelf and I said, it's going to be the day. There's going to be a day where this is okay, right? Well, in came my dilemma of the anonymous fans. In came the realization of the law of diminishing intent, and in came EcoFiles. And I was like, wow, I could use this. I know it's not what I created it for, but I wonder if I share my slides with my audience, if they'll engage. And so I did. So the very first time I used this EcoFiles platform for myself was presenting at a conference. I presented my slides, and my slides were pretty meaty. They usually have a lot of educational content in there. And I offer the opportunity to text, and 25% of the audience texted this keyword. I was floored, okay? Because of those 300 people, I had spent year after year after year flying all over the place to exhibit at these conferences, to maybe come out with 2 to 3 leads, 2 to 3 business cards that I could follow up with, but I don't know, maybe I had the card because they said, hey, yeah, we should connect, right? Like a business card doesn't really mean anything, right? When somebody texted my keyword, it meant that they were interested in that topic specifically, that they resonated with, that they had a need for more, right? And that was just offering my slides. I knew I was onto something. 25% typically is amazing, right? But I was like, no. I didn't even try. All I did was like incorporate the technology, right? I realized that if I actually created the ideal content, right? I spent that time to understand who's in the audience. Is it ideal prospects? Is it ideal clients? What are the topics? What's the content that's going to really, really be of service to them, right? Who's that ideal audience? How am I going to ideally present the topic, right? How do I present the keyword? All right. There was a science to that. Remember, I'm the nerdy girl, right? There was a science to that. We tried presenting it in so many different ways, right? We found that presenting it within slides was really valuable. And then offering a slide where you actually see the phone, which I'm going to show you later, right? All these things, we worked on the language of how it was that I presented and how it moved the needle, and how we could actually optimize the technology so that now it worked really well for that particular environment, right? For that particular use. And by working on all of those things, I was able to consistently have 76% of my audience texting my keyword every time I spoke. This was a game changer for my business. Literally, I executed with extreme precision. I chose 2 major conferences that were worth paying $10,000 to be there in front of 300 people for me to capture the email addresses and deliver value to 76% of the audience. And then I could actually follow up with them. Woo! That's what grew my consulting business. But what I grew to realize is that I much more loved the game of figuring out how to do this better and how to do this for other people, right? I mean, the impact for me was huge. I talked about the 4.2 million in revenue, but I finally returned to a consistent 6-figure salary. When I left corporate, I'll share this just to help you understand the impact. When I left the pharmaceutical industry, I was making $165,000 a year. My accountant was like, "Are you nuts? What are you doing, leaving this job to like start as an entrepreneur?" Right? I was finally able to return to that consistent 6-figure salary. I got a bigger office. I had a team of up to 13 people delivering that service. I was able to bring my husband on as director of operations. For me, that was really awesome because I love being with my husband. He's super duper smart and we nerd out together, and that was really enjoyable. But for us to be involved in our business together meant that we started doing things like annual strategic planning cruises, right? We decided that we wanted to work from abroad, and we worked from Italy for 6 weeks, right? The impact of spending time on this strategy and technology was monumental for me. What I didn't mention here is that it also allowed me, as the nerdy girl, unfortunately, I got married really late in life. I got married at 40, and I was having trouble having children, and I was able to spend $100,000 alone on just my fertility journey. And now I have 2 beautiful children, right? I mean, this impact was huge. So I hope you understand how I sat with that. And I'm like, wow, this isn't just a tactic for me. No way. I had the decision. I had the opportunity to say, okay, do I cash cow it and just keep on rolling with this consulting firm? Or do I figure out how to make this available for others? And obviously I'm here today because I chose that mission, right? I felt like a lead generating machine, right? I felt that with strategy and great technology, like strapped on to my presence, that every time I showed up, I was able to deliver return for my company, right? And so my mission was to figure out how to empower others to become that lead gen machine, right? How we can help entrepreneurs recognize the power of their expertise first, right? And then wield that power by using our strategy and our technology, right? And so it was important for me to realize that, to understand and make sure that this wasn't a Wanda effect, right? That it wasn't just me using it that worked, right? I needed to try it with other people. And so before I launched it, I had my beta clients, right? And Lewis is an example who blew my 76% out of the water. Still a little upset that he still holds the record, right? But he presented at an Inc. 5000 conference. Now, I want to share, he has presented at Inc. 5000 conferences over and over and over again prior to using what we now call a catchword, right? He uses a catchword, and 92% of his audience texts for his sales guide. And he was just blown away. I mean, it was the right fish, the right pond, the right bait. It was like the perfect combo. But he had no idea that opportunity, that he was missing those opportunities, right? I mean, he felt like, wow, I get to speak at the Inc. 5000 conference. I get fantastic awareness. I have people coming to my booth and saying that they want to talk to me. Law of diminishing intent. Do they really talk to me, or does anything really happen, right? And I don't really know who they are, but I get all that attention, right? So he was feeling like he was doing actually pretty good, until he realized he didn't have the email addresses of the 92% of the people in the audience that were interested. And with that, it was gold for him to be able to follow up with them specific to his products and services, right? Nettie Owens, she's an amazing expert in productivity and accountability. Fantastic. And it's interesting because she had said to me, look, I want to do a catch campaign. We're going to talk. I have a talk at a major conference in a couple months, but actually I have a networking event that I paid $500 to sponsor. And as part of sponsoring, I get to introduce myself in front of everybody for 5 minutes. She's like, I've done it before. It's kind of good for awareness or whatever. But she was like, I wonder if I could use my catchword there. I was like, yes. So we talked about not only having the catchword, but how to introduce herself in 5 minutes and transition people into her call to action to say, if this resonates with you, I don't have enough time, I wish I did, but if this resonates with you, I put together this really amazing value. We like to call them a value bomb, right? And you could text my catchword. Well, she has two, but in that networking event, she had 63% of her audience texting for her value bomb in a 5-minute introduction. She was blown away. 5 minutes totally made that investment worth it, right? And made her rethink her strategy on how many times she puts herself out there, and whether every time she puts herself out there has to be this like 1 hour talk. No. All right. On top of the audience response rate, I want to share with you the email open rates, okay? Because they're really crazy. I totally understand. Please keep in mind, I am a nerdy girl. I look at numbers and I evaluate numbers. I understand that greater than 100% is ridiculous. I will explain why, because I asked the tech team to explain how is it that we could have open rates of greater than 100%. And it's because people were re-engaging with that content. Right. So we found that was a really valuable metric to have, because we could tell if people were engaging with one piece of content more than the other, which meant that there was a gap in education and an opportunity to serve people more in that space, right? She's had amazing email open rates, 196% for one of her catchwords and 246% for another. It's crazy, right? But it just shows that her second one was serving her audience better. But what I would say is also, by understanding the strategy, she was speaking to more targeted audiences. She understood her ideal prospects. She understood the topic. She understood how to transition into the catchword. So there are a lot of things that made sure that the people that were texting her catchword were really going to gobble up that information, right? And open it multiple times and possibly even share it. All right. Anthony, who is a lead singer, he's the lead singer of a fantastic band called Remember Jones. And I know that it doesn't seem like it makes sense when I'm talking about entrepreneurs and experts, but artists are entrepreneurs, right? And so what was really interesting is his stage was performing, of course, and he knew that every time he performed that he was losing anonymous fans, right? I mean, he would tell people, hey, find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, but whatever, and friend me, but not everybody did it then, not everybody that wanted to, right? Law of diminishing intent. So it was interesting that even though he had thousands, like over 10,000 followers on Facebook, that he posted his catchword on Facebook. I didn't tell him to do this. I will say I have learned from my client in this particular case, right? So I said, Anthony, why did you post your catchword on Facebook? I'm just kind of curious, because my thought was always to kind of use it in a non-digital situation. And he said, because when I post something on my Facebook page, maybe 1 or 2% of my followers actually see the content. I'm spending time doing videos and posting whatever, and a small percentage of those people see my content. But when I put out a broadcast through Catch, I get an average of 150% open rate, right? So with Catch, when people text your catchword, they become your subscribers. And then in turn, you can broadcast out to them. You can follow up with them, kind of like follow-up emails, but on steroids, right? Because every time you follow up, it's a text and an email and a PDF. So you're dropping major value. Now, in this case, his PDFs were MP3s, right? So he would record really special renditions of covers and some of his songs behind the scenes. And that's what he dropped for his VIP fans. All right. So I just wanted to share that, because it was another revelation of how valuable it was to integrate it in that space. The Leukemia Lymphoma Society, one of our corporate clients, my main reason was to show how having multiple catchwords allows you to really understand what your audience is really craving, right? So LLS had 16 catchwords, and they obviously had a lot of fantastic open rates, but I want to point out the 611%, right? That one honestly made me super emotional, because this is education about cancer. And when I realized that that particular piece was targeted towards a population that had a very rare blood disorder, and they clearly weren't being served, that's what led to this being opened so many times. And we realized that it wasn't just that the users were opening it, they were sharing with their families, and they were sharing with others, because there was a gap, right? It was heartwarming for LLS. I mean, that's their mission, right? To share. But for me to realize the technology allowed them to actually see that there was a gap and that they could serve those people more, right? Really powerful stuff. So I hope as a result of this talk, at a minimum, you get that it's absolutely essential for you to commit to sharing your expertise. You are the greatest asset in your business. It's essential for the success of your business, and it's essential for the people that need your help and need to know that you're out there, right? And now I hope you realize that from a video perspective, it is no longer a question of whether it's worth it, whether it's video or when things get released and you're wondering whether you should go to that networking event or accept that guest speaking gig that doesn't pay you. Remember that I paid $10,000, right? It is no longer a question of whether it's worth it. Doing the right thing is completely worth it, right? So what I would like for you to kind of commit to yourself to do right now is, at a minimum, commit to sharing your expertise. Say, yes, hallelujah, I get it. I need to share my expertise. I need to take inventory of the opportunities I currently have, the things that are in the queue. I know many of you already have talks that are in the queue, right? Improve the ROI, change your approach, take inventory of those untapped opportunities that you haven't kind of really taken seriously, right? And take at least 15 minutes to strategize how you will make every one of those engagements as valuable as possible, not only for you, but for your audience. And you can do both authentically and effectively. Okay. So the right strategy plus the right technology was my solution, right? It made sure that every one of my opportunities, video or not, was more than worth it. And I just want to confirm, if there's enough time, yes, to just show you, may I show you how we can support your ROI strategy? This is really exciting to me. As I mentioned, it's the inaugural year of Catch. catch that is powered by this technology called EcoFiles. I'm going to try and speed through this, but I really want you to hear this opportunity. I thank you if you stay on, because I know that this will yield results for your business, right? And for your audiences. You saw how I actually presented this slide in different ways, right? But essentially, this is what a catchword is. Trio-AJ is a catchword, right? It's the keyword that people text to 411321. By the way, if you are an international audience member right now, you can text Trio-AJ to that long code. Okay, it's a phone number, but it's actually different than a phone number, just kind of a nerdy tip. Long codes look like phone numbers, but they are actually provisioned differently so that they can manage a large volume of data. But anyway, if you are international, you could text 1-909-741-1321. Or if you're Sprint US and you find that you have a problem with 411321, for some reason, Sprint doesn't like short codes sometimes, okay? But this is essentially what the experience is that you can offer your audiences, right? You saw that I shared it digitally. When you are released to share your expertise on physical stages, you can also share on slides, of course, but we also develop catch cards, which are essentially your calling card that shares your catchword, and you could share that physically as well, right? So wherever possible, we encourage you to share that catchword, right? And essentially the audience texts, and hopefully you have all experienced receiving the email, the text message, and the attachment, right? What's very unique and proprietary about our platform, what I want to establish, okay? Catch EcoFiles is a proprietary platform. We are the only platform in the globe that offers this unique trio combination of a text, an HTML email, and an attachment. And it's that combination that lends itself to the very high open rates that we have, right? Inherently, when people see an email with that little paperclip attachment, it inherently is of higher priority to people. Okay, so that was very important for us to try and figure out and dominate and master, and clearly we have with our open rates, right? I'm going to share the average open rate in this next slide, right? But once you once you use your catchword, you will have access to an EcoFiles dashboard, and there you will collect the email addresses of all of these premium leads. Right? You will be able to follow when they texted. So you can see, oh, that there's a blip. Oh, that's because I spoke on this podcast or this particular event happened, right? If something is obviously evergreen, then hopefully you'll see action along the way. Okay. So really cool to watch. And just last night, I went into our system to see what the average across all campaigns were in regards to open rate. The average open rate last night was 236% across all of our campaigns. And that's not only because our proprietary technology, right? We worked really hard to deliver that 1, 2, 3 punch, right? But also because of the strategy that we help our clients with to help understand how to actually wield the power of that tool. It's not just having the tool, it's wielding the power. And it gets me very, very frustrated now when I've created this over 10 years ago, when I see people kind of stumbling through using texting, right? Texting has been around for over 35 years. That's not the innovative part, right? But using that tool in an ineffective way really breaks my heart, because I know the impact of using it in an effective way, right? Then what we wound up doing just recently, we're in the process of testing it right now and launching it, is follow-up sequences, right? So the follow-up sequences are essentially like emails, right? Typically our clients, if they're one of our basic or premium clients, they get access to the email addresses, and then they will do their own CRM email follow-up, right? Well, we know that broadcasts coming out of our system get a really, really high open rate, an average of 75% for the broadcast, right? So we incorporated follow-up sequences where inherently you become a machine. All you have to do is go out there, share your expertise. Once somebody texts your catchword, then you could actually plan to deliver one value bomb. Then 5 days later, for example, deliver another value bomb, 5 days later, another, 10 days later, another, right? So you can create the sequence that is nurturing and that's based on strategy, this journey that you've created, that you've documented between interested prospect and interested client, right? Imagine you just being able to go out there and focus on sharing your expertise and knowing that you have been able to build a machine, and actually we do it for you, right? But with your expertise, we can build that machine where your folks are not only captured, you can catch them, but you can also nurture and convert them. Okay, so I'm super excited about this. So as I was mentioning, there are actually 3 programs. There's basic, premium, and pro. For basic is perfect actually for those folks that really have to speak quickly, right? It doesn't include our marketing graphic design services. I highly recommend the graphic design services. Our goal is to make sure that we highlight and showcase your expertise as good as it is, right? Or maybe even better, right? So we want to make sure that you show up as professionally as possible, right? So the basic program just has us, it gives you access to the vault, which is all of the strategy videos and the workbooks, right? You have, you get a catchword, and you get your email professionally designed, but you provide us with the attachment. So let's say you have slides, you give us a PDF of your slides, bam, all right? Very quick turnaround time on that. And then you, after the setup fee, then you pay in perpetuity and keep on fishing with that catchword, right? We encourage you to continue to use that catchword. Premium actually takes it up a notch where we design your whole package, right? So we make sure that the email looks like the PDF, and you have a catch card and you have a catch slide, and all of that is kind of integrated from a branding perspective, makes you look super sharp. But actually, I also find that it really increases the confidence of our client in actually sharing their catchword. So that's really, really exciting. On top of that, I have launched a new product, because that's what I do, right? A new service called Rocket Fuel Masterminds, right? I found that our clients are people that just love to execute with excellence. The people that love to execute with excellence love to work with us, because that is our mantra, right? And so what I wanted to do is collect a whole bunch of people that like to execute with excellence, and are rocket fuel for our businesses or other people's lives. And so we've collected those folks, and you have a free membership to the Rocket Fuel Masterminds, which is pretty exciting. It's kind of like a bonus thing. Once again, your PDF, your catch card, your catch slide. The pro program is really building out the full lead gen and the nurture machine. Okay. With this, you wind up getting 2 hours of catalyst sessions with a catch strategist, which is me in this first year, or as long as I can do it, because I love doing it, right? So we're going to spend 2 60-minute sessions on really diving in to your strategy, and you have us design for you those 4 follow-ups, right? We're going to kind of coach you through what those topics should be. You write the copy, that's it. We take care of beautifying them and making them a sequence, giving you suggestions on what the frequency, what the delay should be between each one. It's fantastic. This is for those people that are committing to speaking. If you know that you're going to be on podcasts every month, every week, or speaking, if you have the major commitment, then you don't want those leads to just build up and not have opportunity to do anything with it, right? It makes sense for you to actually spend the time to develop this. In all of these cases, our graphic design team does the work for you. Our tech team does all the setup. You do not have to touch the technology at all. I'm used to serving corporate clients, so I love providing that agency approach. You also get an account manager that is personally assigned to you, so you can ask them. They're going to set you accountable, right? I want you to make sure that you get the return on this investment, right? So you're going to actually have somebody that's going to check in on you, see if you've done some of those strategy sessions, if you have questions, etc., right? Really exciting. So in depth, you have your personally assigned account manager. Now I'm taking these value numbers from what I have charged our corporate clients, right? Personally assigned account manager valued at $1,500, access to our Facebook catch and convert virtual mastermind. This Facebook group are all folks that are using their catchwords, and you get to share and how you've been optimizing your catchword. A $1,500 value, access to the vault. These are lots of videos on strategy, workbooks. These are the things that I've spent hours and hours with our corporate clients on, and I've kind of packaged them up for you. $2,500 value, super valuable. professionally built catchword campaign. You don't have to touch the technology, right? We do the setup, the testing. We make sure it's all compliant. $1,500 value. Expertly designed HTML. If you've paid for somebody to design your stuff, $500, and up to 1,000 subscribers included. Up to 1,000 subscribers included. An extra $200 value, and your catchword is available globally and within the US. You can use a short code or a long code, and all of them go into one waiting room or one subscriber list for you. A total value of, oh my goodness, I believe it's $7,700. My little thing is covering it, right? And an ongoing maintenance of $100 a month. But our basic plan, we have been able to work really hard on making sure it's streamlined, is a $300 setup and a $50 a month maintenance fee just to keep that active and to gain access to these groups, and your account manager who's always checking in and can answer your questions on how to optimize every speaking engagement, right? Our premium package is everything in basic plus an expertly designed PDF, right? This professional design package, your catch card, your catch slide, a Zoom background. Actually, we just recently added a Zoom background so that even if you're not sharing slides in a digital environment, you can have your Zoom background, have your catchword on it. Super cool. Obviously, I mentioned the Rocket Fuel Mastermind membership, and a premium catchword upgrade, which allows you to actually use a dictionary word or a proper name, right? That's really in high demand. Total value $9,700. All right, right now is $1,000 setup, $100 a month. Okay, this is our pricing. We worked very hard, okay, on making sure, as I said, that I can actually create this environment, this experience of a corporate agency account manager experience, and actually deliver it at entrepreneurial prices, right? Pro, everything in premium, plus you have 2 one-on-one catalyst sessions with me. You can buy these individually at $1,000. So I want you to know that you have access to that. So that's $2,000 worth of value. Any of these programs, you could buy more and more catalyst sessions with me. I hope I prove to be of value to you, and I hope that I am available. Otherwise, we're bringing on catch strategists. 4 more expertly designed PDFs for your follow-ups, and the HTML along with that, the setup of all of that, all on the tech end. On the back end, you don't need to worry about that at all. I know I love that, even though I'm technophilic, right? I like technology, but I know that my value is to be out there and sharing my expertise. So I need to kind of back away and let the experts do their thing, right? The monthly fees for premium, that 4-part follow-up sequence being delivered to 1,000 people, 1,000 people being nurtured for you automatically. Total value $16,700. Currently a setup of $2,500. And $250 a month. Now, I want to set this from business to business. Oh, seems ridiculous. How can you offer it like that? I want to let you know that all the work that we do up front is valued and costs us way more than this $2,500 setup. Okay. We just know that we're committed to executing with excellence, and we're committed to helping you execute with excellence. And so we know that as being our long-term customer, it becomes very worth it, more than worth it, right? So I want to help you understand that I chose in structuring this to kind of spread out the payments, and your $250 a month winds up being in perpetuity as long as you continue to share your catchword and get that automatic nurturing. It's going to be an incredible return for you, okay? But because I am offering this through AJ, I want to offer you a special partner discount. This is not available. If you go to catchwords.com, you will see the standard pricing. This is only available through these exclusive guest speaking partnerships. Significant discount. We have a 17% discount on your one-time setup for basic, 25% and 40%. Really the craziest value. That's only $1,500 to set up your monster catch and convert machine, right? Or $750 for your premium. I mean, we enjoy the process. We know that we're going to be able to serve you for a long time. So I encourage you right now to go to partner orders. partnerorders.catchwords.com. This is the sneaky backdoor access to these partner-only discounts. Partnerorders.catchwords.com. And when you select your program, it's going to describe the 3 programs. When you select your program, put AJ Rao in the partner code to make sure that you lock in those discounts. Okay. Partnerorders.catchwords.com. If somebody can kind of put that in the comments, that would be extremely valuable. All right. That has the built-in discounts for you. But what I want to offer you today, because I love working with AJ, is a fast action bonus for those folks that actually buy and commit to themselves by 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Okay, I want to give you time to look through the 3 options to see, at a minimum, if you have a gig coming up where you were going to share expertise, at a minimum, do basic. At a minimum, do basic. You give me your PDF or a PDF of your slides. Give my team a PDF of your slides, and then we could turn that around for you, because there's no reason you should be losing those anonymous fans, losing those interested prospects. No reason at all, right? So basic, quick turnaround time. Premium, it's a little bit more time. AJ can talk about this a little bit later, but I feel it's very, very worth it. We want to make sure that you look like a rock star. We prepare you with excellence, right? That's our mantra. And you get your PDF designed and all those, the marketing materials, right? And then of course, Pro, if you know that you have a lot of gigs, a lot of commitment, you're going to commit to speaking, you're going to commit to podcast interviews, etc., I highly recommend the Pro program, because if you just use a basic or premium catchword, you're going to be inundated with leads. And if you don't have a good back end, the problem that I had actually was I didn't expect it, and I actually fumbled. So I fumbled and I didn't actually gain the revenue opportunities that I should have, or the conversion opportunities. Okay. So if you commit to yourself and to one of these programs by October 21st, 8 p.m., I will gift you a 1-hour catalyst session. If you do Pro, then you're going to get 3 hours with me, not 2, right? If you do basic or premium, you'll get 1 hour with me, which will completely expedite your strategy sessions. Go to partnerorders.catchwords.com, put in AJ Rao in the partner code, and that will make sure that we know that you came in through AJ, and that if you commit by 8 p.m. tonight Eastern, that you get that that bonus. All right. Once again, I'm gonna actually just I'm gonna go backwards here. I apologize, and I'm gonna open it up to questions, because right now I cannot see the screen. Thank you so much, AJ. I'm sorry, I was like speeding through. I know we went a little bit over. Look, I'm sweating. I'm working hard, working hard. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, AJ, and I don't know if it's me.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Now I can hear you. I saw you going like this.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I was so surprised when you started talking about like the partner codes and the value you were offering to people. I was like, whoa, I had no idea. No, but it's so true. Thank you. Thank you for doing this for anybody watching this through my, through my networks and through my channels. I mean, I can personally attest to how responsive, all of you are, like your whole team. Ever since I started working with you, I feel like I've been talking to you guys almost every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, just going back and forth and like setting this up. And you really, that is something that I can actually sort of give a testimony to right now live, is that when you say that you take care of your clients and that you really want, that your goal is to help their value shine, that is, I can attest to that. That is 100% true, because every suggestion, you gave me the agency when I was working with you to come up with my own stuff, but then the suggestions you came up with based on your experience and everything, they were so insightful. So it was so helpful to have that, because you're a technophile and I'm tech-averse. So, especially, or I say I'm tech-averse, I'm not really actually, I'm okay with it. I just don't enjoy tech as much as you do. So to have that kind of support as an entrepreneur, like I can't stress or emphasize just what a huge relief of burden that was for me to, as you said earlier, take care of my business, and to make sure that my business is going to be sustainable so that I can keep serving. So overall, this was just amazing. Thank you so much.
And I want to say thank you for being one of those clients that really paid attention to the process, right? You really trusted the process, and it's going to give you the greatest return by trusting the process, right? And hopefully help you beyond just catching your audiences, right? I think it's going to help you think about the language that you use in your marketing pieces and all that stuff. I mean, I have to figure out, when it gets to the point where I can't be on every single Catalyst session, I'm going to miss it, but I will figure out a way so that I can touch everybody. But I really enjoy that process because I'm not joking when I say I understand the impact that it had for me. And I love to witness people's brilliance and say, this is how we can just buff it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's a good way of putting it, that you buff up people's brilliance, because that really was what I felt was happening, from like the client end, which I don't get to be the client that often. So it was a very interesting experience, and it was a very illuminating experience. And you just made it so easy. And one thing, I don't think I've even told you this, but my client experience with you actually really made me think about and tweak and kind of incorporate a little bit more tech into my coaching and consulting experience with my clients.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was definitely a learning moment on, hey, there are simple things that I can do to tweak this. So overall, the experience was just absolutely phenomenal. And we haven't even launched mine yet,
I can't wait. I know. Wait. And now what's interesting too is, we're talking about your one primary catchword. Once you go through that process, right, it becomes easier to now start thinking about, okay, how do I want to segment? Now I'm going to have this other talk, and I kind of want to segment the people from that talk, right? So in the corporate world, that's what they do. They buy 10, 20 catchwords, and they're essentially putting the bait, different bait, and then they get that segmentation information, right? So, I just thought about it's not fair that we can't do that as entrepreneurs. And so I really spent a lot of time on the back end trying to figure out how we can deliver that. I just want to share, literally invested $700,000 personally to create the machine that's on the back end, right? So what you saw is the face-to-face, right? But in order for us to be able to have all the things working and have a tech team and a graphic design team and be able to serve a lot of people, right? My goal is by the end of the year, 1,000 people should have catchwords at a minimum. There's so many more that are sharing their expertise. I'm like, more, right? But I spent a lot of time up front to make sure that we created this machine that can support the missions of all those companies. So this is a huge personal commitment that I have, and I want to make sure that we continue to maintain that touch. And I'm very lucky to have an awesome team of rock stars.
Absolutely. And I will say this. I think every entrepreneur, at least in America, if not the whole world, should have a catchword. Because, and I'm saying this from my space as, as a coach and a consultant of somebody who helps them sort of reclaim their inner power, and who helps them really, I'm all about my whole message and purpose is to help people realize their unique contributions and to really maximize them, right? And I think as entrepreneurs, those of us who answer that calling and stick with it, knowing how difficult it is, knowing how many, the differences in the sacrifices from corporate to entrepreneurship, knowing that we're essentially birthing a non-human entity that is going to take our emotions, it's our blood, sweat, and tears, all of it. We deserve a unique catchword.
Yes.
Now.
Absolutely. But what's interesting is, I want to ultimately, I don't want to say bye-bye to business cards, but that when you're in a networking environment and you walk out with like all these business, I mean, I had like a fishbowl of like business cards that I had collected, right? But the difference is that business cards, when I have a business card, I don't know, did that person give it to me because they want me to contact them? They want, or was it for their value? Was it because they were actually interested in me, right? Or did they just want to connect with me for their purposes? Was it just kind of a polite thing? Like, oh, here's my business. I mean, so many people are like, oh, here's my business card, like, right? So those business cards aren't valuable. And I remember the first time that I actually just had my catch cards out and I said, I'm sorry, I don't use business cards. If you're really interested in the product, then I think you should really text for this information because it's going to serve you wonderfully. And if after you see the type of information and the type of knowledge that we have to share, you want to join us, I welcome you to join us, right? So it allowed me to have them self-qualify themselves. By actually going through the effort of texting your catchword, people are self-qualifying themselves. And at that point, it's a much more comfortable discussion to continue to serve them, but to know and to help understand that like you're doing this for a reason because you serve this clientele, right? It's just a much more comfortable transition.
Absolutely. And I think, there's something to be said exactly like you said with business cards. When I first got my business cards, I was just passing them out like candy. Oh, because I was excited. I got business cards. There was like legitimately nothing more than that. But you're absolutely right. And I had a whole stack of other people's business cards. I probably am still in touch with maybe about 4 of them.
Yeah.
But this is really a good way for people to get that immediate value. I mean, it's like one of those where they could be standing right in front of you, and as soon as they're done talking 30 seconds later, you're able to deliver more value. Exactly. And so I think it definitely makes a huge impression. Again, as an entrepreneur who wants to serve and who's seeking clients, to be able to say 30 seconds from now, I'm going to be delivering value to you.
Yep. And I just wanted to show, to show, what a Zoom background could look like, right? If you're just being interviewed right now, what I did is I had the blank version, right? And then now if I want to say, hey, AJ, if you don't mind, I know that we can't talk much more about this, but I would like to offer XYZ, right? So if you're on a panel, etc., you have the opportunity to still share your catchword like this, right? Yep. And then obviously verbally explain it. So it's been super exciting and actually really shocking for me, having been initially impacted by COVID in March, our business, in the sense that we launched the whole campaign focusing on people speaking in front of live audiences. And it was like, no, right? Just, and then I had my baby. I have a 5-month-old. Tomorrow will be 5 months. But it was really hard to say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I'm like, wait a second, we could use it, on video and digital. You've used catchwords in other areas, stop your wine, wake up, right? But like all of these things are like innovative solutions to the environment that we're experiencing right now, but they're going to have impact forevermore. So
absolutely.
It's really exciting.
Absolutely. And
You've given me more than enough time, lady.
Oh, no. We could keep talking about this, you and I, we just tend to have these conversations where we just go off on tangents, but, I don't see any questions because I think, everything is pretty self-explanatory. You did a great job, really just explaining how you came up with this and showing the value. But you also, I think, there were some real gems of insight and strategy in your entire presentation for people who are thinking about creative avenues to market themselves, no matter what their service or product is. And this is such a versatile tool.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely glad that this is a tool in my toolkit now. Because it is so valuable. So thank you so much,
Well, that's
Wanda.
why I apologize, but I do recommend folks to, take advantage of, this fast action bonus with the catalyst sessions, right? It could be about strategy for your catchword, or in general, we could sit there and say, okay, like, what is it that you want to accomplish, and how could catch actually, just support and be rocket fuel for all of that, right? So there are a lot of different ways to kind of address that. And I hope people take advantage of those catalyst sessions.
I was just about to say that too, is that, like, I hope everybody that's watching this, like, live or later, goes to partnerorders.catchwords.com and it's just AJ Rao for the partner code to get your discount. And you know what? Even if you catch this later and you don't get the discount, it's worth it. Yeah. So do it anyway.
So I want to clarify that whoever goes into partnerorders.catchword will and puts AJ Rao will get the discount. But if they act today by 8 p.m., they will also get the catalyst session.
Yeah.
Right? So if somebody hears this 2 days later, they'll still get the discount, but they just won't get the catalyst session.
Right. And I think that's a really important and good distinction to make. And again, like, this was all just so phenomenal and it was so insightful. I took like 2 pages of notes on, like, speaking engagements and, like, what to do. And I have like 4 other catchwords that you and I are going to be talking about soon. But it was so phenomenal. Thank you so much, Wanda. And then
thank you for having me.
If anybody has any questions later, if you're watching this later, drop them in the comments, because Wanda and her team have been co-hosting this session with me on LinkedIn and on Facebook, I believe. So they will be able to see your questions and they will be able to answer your questions directly. So whether you're catching this live or later, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. And if they're not able to, I know I will see them and I will definitely direct them to the right people and we will get your questions answered. So I hope this was valuable for everybody, who tuned in live and who are going to watch this later on my channel. This was, for me, it was definitely a bonus live stream that was worth doing. So, thank you all for tuning into this. Make sure you go to partnerorders.catchwords.com and take advantage of those bonus offers, especially if you're doing it today. Take advantage of that strategy session, because it was that first strategy session that I did that completely blew my mind and made me realize how much return on my investments that I was leaving on the table anytime any words came out of my mouth in public, literally. So I might even start using them with family. We'll see. We'll see. But thank you so much, Wanda. And I will be back on Friday with my regular live stream, because it is Focus Friday. So I'll be back at noon on Friday. Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful time, and I hope you take the time to reflect and process all of the insights you got in this session today. Thank you so much, and see you on Friday.
My pleasure. Bye now.